If you have some questions, I'd be happy to chat with you. It's a little intimidating because I'm here with some wonderful historians, but if you have any questions, let it fly. Any thoughts? Gleaves.
Well, Senator Brown, I'm just curious, that's very eloquent and moving, especially the personal touch of the Lincoln biographies you've read. Which ones seem to capture in your mind that personal touch that you also try to convey?
Well, I mean, I love the poetry of Carl Sandburg, but Carl Sandburg was not a historian. But I do love the poetry, the language, the artistry, the English. Beautiful, beautiful work. I grew up with Benjamin Thomas, one volume. I still like Benjamin Thomas simply because I think he's very respectful. I think David Donald, not as eulogistic as Benjamin Thomas. The new book by Mr. White, which I haven't read, but I know Dr. Anderson is reading it. I'm very anxious to read because he has I think, an affinity for Lincoln that I think will treat the president quite well. He's fair and honest, but he's also very endearing in his writing, and I'm very anxious to read that book. So I'm hopeful that may be, to me, the definitive Lincoln biography. I hope that answers your question. Yes, Brian.
Do legislators in Lansing take Lincoln with them to work each day? Or what can they learn from Lincoln? What do you take with you to work each day?
Well, we're trying to, with the Abraham Lincoln Bicentennial Committee, and through this leadership program launched by Dr. Anderson, where we're taking members of the legislature and bringing them together at a dinner with some outstanding speakers, Mr. White being one of the recent ones, and we have programs coming up. We're trying to encouraging a sense of appreciation for Lincoln. I mean, Lincoln is the quintessential American, and in politics, as I said earlier, he really, I mean, I tell young people, if study history and study, the lives of great people, men and women, and certainly Lincoln is just at the top because, again, we can identify with him in his struggles, and he grew kind of line upon line, precept upon precept, as the scriptures say. Senator Tom George has a wonderful appreciation of Mr. Lincoln and really invests a good bit of time trying to do this very thing, encouraging a study of Lincoln, certainly in the Kalamazoo County area. We're working on it. When I was a kid, my father appreciated Lincoln. He took me to all the Civil War battlefields in the area that I grew up in, Northern Virginia. Spent summers here in Michigan, but grew up in Northern Virginia. And I remember asking my father at an early age, he had been a county attorney in his hometown in Kansas before I was born. I asked him, what's the secret to political success? And I think he'd read a lot of Lincoln. And his answer was one word. And it was honesty, and I was disappointed because I thought it would. That's a given. You got to give me a better answer, Dad. But I have to tell you, in the years since, I'm grateful for that conversation. There is no other foundation for good government. Without that, everything falls apart. It falls apart, in the company of a Republican caucus or a Democratic caucus. We're trying to model Lincoln in this bicentennial year, and we've got a lot of work to do. So it's a question that each senator and representative, will have to answer, but certainly we're trying. Dr. Anderson.
Share what you're personally going to do on February 12th for the legislature.
I'm going to, I've put together what I call a Lincoln story. And I should have brought one. It's essentially this story, but kind of condensed, about Abraham Lincoln's grandfather. And I've put it in, I've had it printed up as a table, what I call a table tent. I was in marketing for years. So it's a legal size, and it has scores, so you fold it. It's triangular, it stands. and we glue the back, and I'm going to have it on the desk of each senator, and so they'll get to read that and hopefully encourage, again, an appreciation for the life of Lincoln. That story, incidentally, was the defining, most formative story for Abraham Lincoln, certainly for his father, because he was the young Thomas who was there kneeling beside his fallen father. That story was just told to Abraham Lincoln, President Lincoln, by his father time and time again. They never wanted to forget that story because the hardships that ensued with the loss of the head of the household was significant. And it's interesting that you know, the Lincoln family, in our understanding of their history, starts with this assassination, and it ends, you know, with another assassination. And of course, they both shared the same name. So I'm going to share that with my colleagues, and we'll have some fun with it. Was that? Yes, sir.
I'm wondering, in your opinion, how do you relate Lincoln's idea of a new birth of freedom, kind of his Gettysburg Address, maybe the thesis of the Gettysburg Address, with Lincoln's understanding of the Declaration?
Well, of course, I'd encourage you to read that wonderful book by Gary Wells, Lincoln at Gettysburg. Some people may challenge him on this, but I think he is just the most masterful perspective of the Gettysburg Address in terms of the implications of what Lincoln was trying to say. And maybe he puts more into it than Lincoln could have ever imagined, but I would encourage you to read Gary Wells' book. I think it's titled Lincoln at Gettysburg. And I'm going to try to answer your question. Maybe I'm not sure what the question is.
I'm wondering if there's a connection or a progression in this thinking, or
well,
the Gettysburg Address
keep it
inspired by a basic understanding